Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are on this pale blue dot that we all live on. My name is Adamantium, you are the audience, and you are listening to AAU TZM podcasts. So I'd like to thank everyone for clicking in, or tuning in, or just pressing play, whatever it is. I've got quite a lot of announcements to go through. That's why I've had to re-record this little intro bit, because a lot of things have been happening lately, and a few changes, and I've been lumping quite a few projects on myself, some of which I will detail to you in just a moment. First off, the usual announcement for those of you listening to this on YouTube right now. My podcast also exists on talkshoe.com. If you look down in the video description, you'll find a link to the call series where you can listen to and download the full MP3 files for free. So that way you don't have to listen to, different parts on YouTube. Also, another announcement, I think this is actually the last time I'm going to plug this now, because I think I've plugged it enough, is last year, in December last year, so a few months ago, I completed my very first documentary, which I called Life on the Soapbox. I've received some quite good feedback about it. It hasn't been viral, but it's got a modest, I think, 327 view count. So that's pretty good for me, considering that it's an hour and 27 minutes. But you can look for that on YouTube, Life on the Soapbox. You can find that there. Also, another thing that many of you will be either aware of or should be at least interested in is the fact that ZDay is coming up close on our heels now for around March 15th. March 15th, that's going to be the day that most of the events are going to be on. The main event, I think, in Toronto this year. The London event is going to be March 15th, and which I will also be going to. If any of you are going to be going to any event, then please make sure that the event you're going to has available space, so you can, and at least then you'll know that you can bring as many people as you like, because we need to have more people at these kind of events. The London one that I'm going to is going to be on Saturday 15th of March as well. That is going to be very, very interesting, because it's at the Conway Hall that's on Red Lion Square. It was where we had the sort of meeting for ZDay recently, so I know exactly where it is. But yeah, tickets for that, if you go to www.eventbrite.co.uk/e/ZDay 2014 tickets, you'll be able to get the tickets there. From the time of this recording, there's 275 tickets still remaining, but I dare say that they will, get snapped up pretty quickly. I myself am holding my own ZDay event again this year. This time I'm going to be doing it on Saturday, March 8th. So it'll be the week beforehand. Same venue as last time. Same sort of setup. I'm just going to be giving a presentation of mine that is about... I'm not going to give it away, actually. You'll find out at the event. I'm just going to be giving a talk and then holding a Q&A there. So that's going to be March 8th. Same time, last place, the Old House at Home pub in Maidstone, Kent. It's a free event as well, but it's also a good idea to at least buy a drink, because I get the room for free, and everyone likes a drink. But anyway, there's that. Okay, the main project that I'm undertaking this year is a UK tour. This is a sort of like a lecture / event / street activism tour that I'm doing of the UK, of as many TZM chapters as possible. Each location I'm going to spend 2 days. The first day I do a joint event with the local chapter there, and I give a presentation and do a Q&A with them. And also, if there's anyone in the chapter that's like a filmmaker or a poet or a comedian or whatever, if you're willing and able to perform, then let's collaborate and do a joint event together and make it a really good one, and get loads of people from your local area in, like sort of make it almost like a town hall meeting. Do something. Let's collaborate and do something. Details of how to contribute to this, I'll detail in just a moment. But yeah, basically that's the first day at each location, and then the second day we get together as many people from that chapter or whatever in that area and get out on the street and do some damn street activism. Okay, we need to be getting out into the real world to tell real people about this instead of just sitting on Facebook sharing and liking things. Okay, we need to get out there in the real world. We need to be like giving out leaflets, DVDs, hugs, whatever, right? We need to, really get this message out there in a productive and peaceful way. So that's that. So yeah, basically that will be the second day, and then after that I go on to the next location, But that's the idea for the tour. But also with the tour, I'll be filming as much of the tour as I can, and then using that footage to make a travel/social commentary show that I'm going to be making for YouTube. And also when I expand out, hopefully into my world tour, I'll be doing more series. Basically, the UK tour is going to be season 1 of this travel/social commentary show, and then I think I'll probably do a season for each country actually, or maybe a season for each part of the globe that I go to. But that's on the horizon, because basically it's going to be kind of like a cross between An Idiot Abroad and the travel shows Billy Connolly used to do, but the focal point of all the content is really getting down to why the social system is crumbling, what the effects of it are, and what the solutions can be. Okay, that's the focal point of that travel show. But if you're, as I said earlier, if you're in the UK and you're listening to this before 16th of February, because this is going out on the 5th of February, so you have 11 more days. If you're in the UK and you're interested and you want to help me host an event in your area, then there's going to be a group brainstorming session on TeamSpeak on Sunday the 16th of February this year. Right? So I created an event for it on Facebook. So have a look on there for UK Soapbox Tour brainstorming session. And that's because that's the name that I've given to the tour. It's the UK Soapbox Tour 2014. But yeah, if you want, just get in there. See if you can make it, and let's organise something in your area, and because that's basically where we'll be sorting out exactly where I'm going to go and when. But that's that. There's also, because of there's been a few changes with some of the radio shows that I've been doing. I'm no longer doing Adam's Musings on UK Collapse Radio, so I'm having to branch off into other projects. One of which is a radio play that I'm going to be doing. It's called Losing My Religion. It's basically going to be a socially conscious radio play in more or less the kind of same format of the kind of radio plays you hear on Radio 4, but it's the story is essentially the story of an individual who is going through the process of awakening from because he or she, I can't remember, I haven't decided whether the protagonist is going to be male or female yet. But they start the story as basically a mindless drone to the establishment, and they go through an awakening process of exactly what it means to advocate for sustainability. So that's that one. If you're interested, I'm always on the lookout for different cast members. So if you're able and willing to provide a realistic character portrayal, then please get in touch with me that way. My Twitter handle is AdamAntiumTZM. On Facebook, I'm Adam Zeitgeistantium, and you can also message me through youtube.com/AAUTZM. That's that. Also, because I'm no longer doing Adam's Musings, I had already started a series of basically entry-level explanations of exactly what is wrong with this current system and what is right with a natural law resource-based economy. So I'm going to be continuing that. I'm going to be, finishing what I started essentially, and I'm going to be doing that for its own standalone podcast series that I'm not entirely sure of what I'm going to call it yet. I'm actually tossing up between two different titles. The first one is Monetary Economics versus Sustainability, and the other title is TZM for Numpties. I think I have to call it for Numpties because I dare say the for dummies thing, that's a trademark or something, and I stand no hope in hell of having the for dummies series accept my material for their publications. But anyway, that's that. It was like radio plays and thing. And also, once I've finished my tour, I am going to be getting a music project together. I'm hoping to possibly collaborate with musicians all over the world for them to improvise little bits and pieces, and we can collaborate all together from all over the planet to put together really awesome pieces of music and put them out for free on YouTube. That's one of the ideas that I've had. I've had other ideas of how I can perform parts of it myself, and anyone else who contributes, then they can also perform their bits by playing their bits live and having all the other bits playing along with it. But I haven't made any of this concrete yet, but I will be seeking at doing it, because as you can tell, I'm the kind of guy who loves to put loads of different things on my things on my doorstep. But anyway, it is, however, my unfortunate task to remind you that filescrubbers.com is no longer our sponsor, for the reasons that you should all be aware of, since it was mainstream news for about a week. So just for those of you who've been living under a rock for the last 2 weeks, it was reported in the mainstream media on 22nd of January that Anonymous had taken down filescrubbers.com. Now, that's the official account of events. However, like most false flags, you'll notice huge inconsistencies. The main one being why Anonymous would take down a service that can help them. It's specifically tailored for helping people like them. And that they didn't actually claim responsibility for the cyber attack, and I've spoken to a few Anons who claim this is a false flag. But I go by the evidence, and I've arrived at the conclusion that it was neither. It was aliens. Okay. Anyway, so this podcast is brought to you by Facepalm, a brand new red button feature for terrestrial television. We all know that TV is rapidly becoming obsolete, so while that particular ship sinks, why not have some fun with it? This is how it works. You go to www.rbfacepalm.com, now RB, that stands for red button, and order the special transmitter. Okay, this device, once you receive it and install it, it piggybacks onto the broadband television signals to embed its command line into the red button functions. You can then simply press the red button to submit a facepalm to the central hub. For maximum effectiveness, we would advise that you launch this service during question time or any instance where a politician or banker is speaking in an official capacity. Okay, there is of course a scoring system, so 50 face palms earns you the privilege of an egg being thrown at the targeted person. 100 face palms gets you a shoe thrown at them, and for a limited time only, 1 million face palms gets you the privileged chance to watch a pay-per-view broadcast of them being taken to an abandoned hospital and tickled for 10 hours straight. Now, I can imagine this service will be extremely popular during the party political broadcasts, the news, and Top Gear. So why waste any more time? Visit www.rbfacepalm.com and enter the code name Adam for 15% off your own transmitter. So I know it's definitely worth it, guys. I mean, I can imagine, viral videos of people using this service, cropping up all over the place. So, but anyway, that's all out of the way, and I've wasted enough time. So I will bring on today's guest, which is the wonderful Sir Ben McLeish. If you'd like to say hello, Ben.
Hello, sir, and I'm still laughing. I was lucky that I was on mute because I was laughing my arse off at your sponsor, although I shouldn't really, because my name is Ben McLeish and I endorse that message and RB, whatever that means. But I actually wanted to begin the show by congratulating you on being so prescient with your last sponsor, filescrubbers.com.
Yeah.
Because I was just reading an article today about how there's basically a backdoor in all encryption software that people have downloaded. So any encryption done on local machines by anybody, including activists or anybody else who wants to hide their porn history or whatever, is essentially backdoorable by anybody who created the software. So actually, you're sort of correct in that sense.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted to congratulate you also on the very interesting show you did with Matt Berkowitz. I don't know when it was on the 5th of Jan, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Because that story that you both talked about the man jumping off the 4th or 5th floor of a mega mall in China, as far as I can tell, is true, because it's been so widely reported with no debunking or hoax. I mean, the chaps at Snopes.com haven't jumped on it just yet. Who knows? We may still be proven wrong. But it made me immediately want to contact you because there's an element to shopping malls which goes fairly unexpressed these days, which may have contributed to the mindset of this young gentleman, who I think, as you and Matt both pointed out, was evidently already under some very, very serious pressure, and had obviously had enough, and saw no other way out than to become the torpedo. There is a show in Australia called The Gruen Transfer. And if you watch Series 1, Episode 1, which is actually on YouTube, very carefully, you'll find me in the audience, because I was in the audience for the very first episode.
Oh, right, okay.
You have to look very carefully, though, and now I am watching my hairline. So just look out for the hairline, you'll find it. And the reason it's called the Gruen Transfer is because the Gruen Transfer is a real thing. Gruen, by the way, it's actually pronounced Gruen, it's Gruen. It's named after the inventor of shopping malls, Victor Gruen. I think his name was Grunbaum originally, but he called himself Victor Gruen when he moved to the States. And he created the first ever shopping malls. He believed that shopping should be an experience, not just a collection of shops. There should be benches, there should be rest areas, there should be walks, there should be plants, all that kind of stuff. And the unfortunate byproduct of Gruen's work was this Gruen transfer, which is the moment at which you glaze over, having gone to buy something specific, and you glaze over into an auto-buying mechanism where you just essentially start shopping in general. It's a real thing. Look it up. It used to have its own Wikipedia page, although I note it's been removed, although Victor Gruen is still on there. And he himself disavowed the Gruen transfer. He couldn't stand it. He thought it was an awful idea. He thought that shopping malls, as they became in the later parts of his years, were an abomination. I think he actually even called them bastard children. He said he refused to pay alimony for them.
Crikey.
But this Gruen transfer is a real thing, and on a micro level, it does that to you. You go in, and the shiny shops and the shiny floors, and the structure of the building, which means that you have to go up in order to go down. In other words, it stops you from leaving too easily, and the very similar ways in which it looks. I mean, if you get dropped into any Westfield shopping centre, in fact, I was in one just yesterday, the one by the Olympic Park. If you were just dropped in randomly, you'd have no idea which way you're facing because there are no real markings of where you are. There's also the mega mall in Dubai that does exactly the same thing. And then that's stories high, and it's just miles and miles and miles long. And you just get lost. And when you get lost, you then take your mind off where you're going and start looking at everything around you and shopping in general.
Oh, yeah.
the micro level of the Gruen transfer. And then the macro level of the Gruen transfer, which you'll find fascinating, is when people actually decide to actively go to malls to hang out rather than shop, or they think rather than shop. And they become what we now know in the modern era as mall rats. And of course, there was an entire film about that, which gives you an idea about how heavily this Gruen transfer effect has actually embedded itself into our culture. So very often we say, oh, these people are just mindless consumers, they're just victims of advertising. Actually, sometimes they're victims of architecture, and it's that deliberate and that indoctrinating that we must always be very careful when judging people on their spending habits, because there are real strong psychological reinforcers built into the architecture and the landscape of these shopping malls that make people do what that couple were doing, which is 5 hours of random shopping. And in fact, it's the randomness that killed that man, because if you listen to what he said, or at least what he was reported to say, let's just assume that the story is true. He said he couldn't stand the idea that she was buying yet another pair of shoes. Now, why was she just buying yet another pair of shoes, and why did she have so many to begin with? The female obsession with shoes is, of course, buoyed up by heavy amounts of marketing and all the magazines, and the magazines that contain more advertising than actual stories. And the stories themselves are, of course, PR as well. But very often, people will end up bouncing backwards and forwards and buying multiple different things, and sometimes multiple versions of the same thing. So those guys were in the thrall of the micro version of the Gruen transfer.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that's one thing that I'd never really thought about before. The idea that the actual physical structure of a shopping establishment would be deliberately designed to actually engender or at least trap a person into being subject to more advertising. That's interesting. I never thought about that before.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about, of course, in the Zeitgeist movement, we talk about architecture all the time, thanks in part to Buckminster Fuller and the Venus Project. So we understand how, of course, architecture can have a positive effect, but a wonderful hidden secret of modern malls, probably hidden by the fact that they seem so innocuous and they seem to have no landmarks and they seem to just be neutral spaces. It is, in fact, that neutral space itself that is the conducer, if you like, the push to getting you to not focus on something so unimportant as the architecture and to go and buy more things. So yeah, it is a very well hidden, deliberately hidden function of the shopping environment, and this was exposed quite cleverly, actually, by Derren Brown, one of my favorites when it comes to sort of illusions and mind-bending trickery. When he dressed himself up as a beggar and built queues into the different parts of the shopping center he was in, which were basically fostering the idea of giving and generosity into random buyers. And sure enough, it worked, man. He picked up £250 in about an hour. And they did a test experiment with another guy. I think he got like £2.68 before all of the marketing and all the other stuff was built in. So it really, really works. And it works very, very well. And more importantly, it works immediately. It doesn't work once you've been to that shopping mall 10 times and you've had the reinforcers straight away. They pick the kind of marketing that works as an immediate panacea for your own critical thought and ends up turning you into the kind of buying robot that we all sometimes find ourselves being.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you mentioned earlier, it reminded me of there's a Bill Hicks bit where he says that I think he said by the year 2000 all malls are going to be connected. There's going to be a subculture of mall people born, bred and raised in the malls. They've never seen sunlight. and it just seems like we're actually strangely moving in that direction. So what you said is potentially quite prophetic.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely right. And of course, that matches our increasing consumerist behaviors as well, of course. Although I think there is some fight back to that now. As you mentioned, Jim Phillips's First Christmas. I've heard people ask for that before he came up with that as a unified idea. I've heard some people doing that before as well. But look out for it. Look out for the Gruen transfer. I can give you an exact example that people can go and visit if they're in London. And I think it still looks this way. I haven't been back into this place, but it's the Trocadero Centre in Piccadilly, just down the road from the Leicester Square you just mentioned, where you at one point literally have to go upstairs in order to get downstairs. And pay attention to my words, because we say stairs a lot. But of course, we know that the way in usually is an escalator and the way out is usually a set of stairs, which is also deliberate because they want you to put off the physical exertion of leaving the store, but they don't want you to feel exertion on the way in. They want you to feel welcome and at ease. And least amount of energy getting into the heart, you'll find, into the heart of that shop. Marks and Spencers have done this for years, and it always struck me as rather weird until I realized that it was absolutely deliberate, with the side effect, of course, that it halves the energy bills for the escalators. But yeah, Trocadero. It's now Ripley's Believe It or Not, which is not, I think, a wonderful irony. Yeah, you can go and try it out. Go and see if you, from the second floor, if you can get downstairs by going down. You cannot. You find yourself going up to the third floor. So it is deliberate and interesting, and I find it absolutely fascinating. And I would also recommend to anybody who wants to watch the ABC, the Australian Broadcast Corporation's Gruen Transfer. It is actually surprisingly still going under a slightly different name. The last one was in October 2013. I was very surprised. But, I mean, these are very, very instructive shows. They are comedy, and they have, I don't know, usually four rotating advertising professionals who come in and talk about how adverts work. And they do, you know, the best and worst adverts. They do guess the ad, where you see the ad, but you don't see what the product is, and you have to work out what they're actually selling, which is very, very interesting. You realize how completely random the advert is compared to what they're actually selling you. Because it's so impossible to divine what they're even talking about until they show you the product itself. Which means all they're doing is giving you some interesting sensory input and then marrying that to some product that they want you to have in your shopping bag. And then they also do something which I think is actually the jewel of the show, called the pitch, where they basically pitch a ridiculously difficult idea to sell and then ask two ad agencies to come up with real adverts for them. And they do things like selling whale meat, getting people used to the idea of eating whale meat. The tagline for that, by the way, is the beef of the sea.
Oh, my God.
Very, very funny. Banning all religion. The idea of getting used to the idea of living next to a nuclear power plant was another one. They're very, very funny. And you know, they then award the advert agency that produced the best advert. And it's extremely funny. It's actually accidentally a really, really good inoculation against advertising.
Yeah, it's amazing the kind of things that we can be conditioned to do purely by a strategic use of advertisement. I mean, one of the things that me and Matt discussed in the last podcast, because I know this podcast is an extension of that, is the idea of freedom and liberation being a common motif in a lot of adverts, specifically the jewelry and fragrance adverts running up to Christmas.
Absolutely. In fact, it's something.
Sorry, that's my dog. Don't worry.
Right, your dog is just agreeing with you. This was actually a point made deliberately in, I think it was Psy-War, or it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was another advert film. I'm sure it was by the same guy though, where they talk about how we always think in the West that we live in a propaganda-free world. We've got past all that. We don't need to be goaded that way anymore. Now people are rational and all the rest of it. Of course, that's the perfect propaganda scenario. You are actually not able to even consider anything that's seen as PR or propaganda at all. And I've seen this happen in real life as well. I mean, I worked for a media monitoring agency for a while, and one of the most fascinating things to watch was a press release that would come through that had been sent to all the major news outlets, stating something about macular degeneration and its treatment and its relation to diabetes, or, for example, glucosamine and how it was good for your joints, and it happened to be sold by this particular company. And that factoid then gets